doing it.
Probably a lot of the stuff that people are asking for, you're probably working on it, right?
Oh yeah. And they think we're like, the marketing team will post something as, oh, wish you were working on this instead. I'm like, the marketing people aren't the ones.
They actually don't let us do that.
Yeah, you can point that at me if you want, but keep them out of it.
I'm Ryan Gresham, and this is Gun Talk Nation. This Gun Talk Nation is brought to you by Franklin Armory, SDS Imports, Range Ready Studios, Silencer Central, Secure It, Ruger, Ballistic Advantage, and Guns and Gear TV. Hey, welcome into Gun Talk Nation. This Gun Talk Nation, we got Kirk Foreman, Aero Precision. Welcome in, man.
Thanks for having me. So
Aero Precision, I think people know you guys. They probably think of AR-15s, right?
Often do, yeah.
That's what you guys are known for, but I'm doing a lot more than that now. So I thought we'd kick it off. I mean, you're here. We're recording Build Box, and obviously that's our show about doing gun builds. It seems kind of perfect because you guys are, to me, like, you popularized gun builds, don't you think?
We were definitely integral in it, I would say.
Yeah.
We're the builder company. We've been there for a while. We started as an OEM and then launched our own brand, and it still kind of catered to that individual parts and components piece. Saw a lot of success in that, and then carried that into other platforms.
I feel like it used to be gun builds, and I mean, I guess we'll expand on it, but at first we'll just talk about ARs. It used to be you had to be kind of the gun nerd, the gun guru, gun techie guy.
Yeah.
To be like, he did a gun build? What are you talking about?
Yeah, most of those guys back then were doing it incorrectly too. That's the funny part,
Really? How so?
Well, like wedging the, everyone kitchen gunsmith, wedging the upper between your legs and torquing the barrel nut on, and there was a lot of weird stuff going on back in the day.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, now we're spoiled, right? We've got all the right tools.
All the right tools,
from all these companies. But now I know people who are not what I would call gun nerds, and they're doing builds. They're like, okay, I'll get an upper, I'll get a lower, I'll all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of that comes from just information access. I would say there's a lot of really good content out there now about like how to correctly build a rifle, and kind of makes it much less intimidating, right?
Yeah.
And that's also supported in the market as far as tool availability. Certain things like we like to do this. If we can make it easier to build, we will, without sacrificing the quality of the part.
Yeah. What are some of the trends? What were you seeing 5-10 years ago versus what are we seeing now in the builds?
Oh, I mean, that's a rabbit hole.
I like rabbit holes.
It's all very trend based. Back in the day, everyone was building 16-inch carbines. That was kind of the go-to that most people were doing. You have one guy build a coyote rifle, and that was something different. And
let's get a 20-inch or 22, 24. Yeah. Yeah,
I'm going to slay coyotes with this thing. And then you saw the pistol surge happen, and that opened up a whole new world. And then now I would say what I see mostly now is going to be like trends, right? Like somebody has a build for a specific use case, which is good. We should always be building a use case. But you'll see like people adopt that. Like you saw the whole recce rifle trend, or the thing I always quote's like the barrel length of the week, right?
Yes.
The 14.5 wasn't good enough. Now we got to do 13.7s, and then everyone's building 13.7s. So yeah, I guess it kind of just never ends. The machine never stops.
So here's a question though. You mentioned use case, right?
Yes.
And I think you're right. On one hand, I can argue it both ways. On one hand, you should have like a goal in mind. What are we going to do with this? What is it for? And then on the other hand, sometimes there's something fun out there, some product in the gun world that I have a bunch of people hate on it because they're like, what's that for? I'm like, how about who gives a crap? Because it just looks cool, or it's just fun, or it's weird.
Some of my favorite builds are that way.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of gatekeeping that goes on with that, which I'm really not thrilled on, because it's okay to build a gun just because it brings you joy. Like that's a totally okay like rationale for that.
Yes.
Some of the favorite builds I've seen from customers, I'm like, I have no practical use case for that. In most cases, I can't get ammo for that because it's a weird caliber or something, but they did something very cool, which I'm all about.
Any come to mind that are kind of like, well, that's out of left field?
The coolest one I've seen that kind of comes to mind regularly is one of our customers. I don't remember the person's handle. I saw it on Reddit. They did a American VSS Ventornes type build.
Really?
So they used like the Hera furniture with the thumbhole stock and the tubular handguard. He chambered the thing in 9x39.
Oh my
So he
gosh.
did all the work on it. It was a super awesome rifle. Again, probably most people can't find ammo for it. I'd be willing to wager he probably has the bulk of the supply as a percentage.
Right.
Because he built that one
why
rifle.
He built the gun is because you just happen to have a bunch of that ammo.
Got a bunch of surplus on the deal. You know?
Yeah, that's why.
That's one that always comes to mind is like one that's really fun. There's lots of really cool like pop culture reference clones that people do.
Yeah, the clones are a whole different rabbit hole, right?
Yeah, but a lot of those are just for fun. Like, right? Like it's just a movie like that somebody likes or something that they weren't tailoring it for any specific purpose. They're just like, hey, that's really cool. I'm going to build that. Yeah. I've done that with video games. I have a Counter-Strike M4A4 clone I built. It's actually very functional, but at the end of the day, the initial motivation for me getting into that was just like, oh, I'm going to make this thing that's on my screen a real thing. And that's really cool.
Yeah. It's funny. Think about video games because some people come to guns through video games.
Absolutely.
Playing video games. And then some people, they play all these video games and they never get into guns. And I'm always kind of like, guys, you could actually shoot these guns in real life. IRL.
Yeah.
Like you could actually like feel the recoil in your shoulder and not just in your thumbs.
Yeah. Like, oh, Chris Vector's awesome. Yeah. You can own one of those. You could buy one.
You could own one.
We're lucky to live in a country where that's allowed. So
yeah. I remember thinking about interesting, and I guess this isn't a build, but guys from up in your neck of the woods, Olympic Arms.
Oh, yes.
They would have some interesting things. I want to say they had like ARs and 243 WISM.
They did all sorts of crazy stuff.
They were kind of into like the hunting calibers for a bit.
And some not stuff. They were some of the first to do AR pistols too.
Yeah.
They weren't AR pistols as we know them now, but they were, at the time AR pistols, and they functioned within that operating window, so to speak.
Yeah.
And those are really collectible now.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy it when someone just goes, I'm just going to do this because I think it's interesting.
Yeah, there was a lot of cool innovation out of that shop, especially given the time as the AR market was kind of, they were one of like the legacy players, I would say.
Yeah.
As ARs kind of became commercially available before it was like a big thing.
22-250, I think they had the 22-250 ARs.
I couldn't even tell you off of memory.
I enjoyed seeing it because I was like, wow. I mean, you just don't see that. I mean, so what about you? Any builds that you're kind of your favorite builds that you've done?
On a more serious note, when you tailor something into a use case and it does that really well, or checks enough boxes that you need, that's always very satisfying. Favorites, it's a very niche use case, but the my M5 I built I really love. It's like a 700 to 1,000 yard gun, 6.5 Creedmoor, and it shoots great. I mean, it can obviously do inward of that, but that was kind of the initial go-to with it, and I threw a proof barrel at it and did all that fun stuff, and
that's awesome.
Got the thing out and stretch its legs, and it was really fun to like see all this research and work and whatnot translate into a functional rifle, and it did exactly what I needed it to do.
Well, you almost kind of need to pick a path, right? Because we have so many options on ways to build guns now that you do need to kind of like give yourself some bumpers, some parameters.
Yeah, and then there's some overlap, but generally like the first thing you should be thinking about is like, what is the cartridge I need?
Yeah.
And like, is that 5.56? Is it something that needs to go into a large frame? And then kind of build out from there. What, velocities do I need for the terminal ballistics, I'm requiring for a hunt or whatever, or anything like that. You kind of got to think about it full circle and then take that idea and then build parts around that idea.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I think if you haven't done many builds, you go, well, how many different ways can you do this? Like whatever, like, no, you don't understand. Like this is going to be my go dark IR laser, home defense, 11.5-inch gun or whatever. Right. I want it to be subsonic.
Yeah.
And just all these things it's just a game at that point.
Yeah.
You're playing a game with your head.
You do something, most people, I shouldn't say everyone, most people probably start out with like a 16-inch carbine. And then like me, I ran those for a while and I'm like, this thing's kind of long. I'm gonna do something short. And then you go to like a 10.5 usually is what people will go to, like as short as they can reliably go. And then I matured a little bit and I'm like, I really like 11.5. That inch of barrel is making a total difference. But
it makes all the difference in the world.
I had to build 10 rifles and pistols to figure that out. But I eventually reached that conclusion,
Well, the other thing is if you ever shoot a gun that's built correctly and built to help you be a better shooter. So it shoots very soft, it has a great trigger, it has either a muzzle brake or a can on it that just mitigates recoil, and you're like, and all you've done is shot a stock AR, birdcage, whatever, right? When you shoot something like that and it's just easy to handle, it shoots flat, it just feels like you're cheating.
Yeah, and that's like a whole science in and of itself, is getting to that point. And there's certain guns like something a 3-gunner would use, right? Like I would not qualify that as like life-saving equipment. Because it's a very, very delicate system. It's tuned for that ammo they're running.
They're operating in a very small window.
But when you have that window of parameters and you're shooting those guns, you're like, wow, this thing shoots really good. And there's some stuff you can do in what I would say is more of like the practical use rifle space, to make them shoot better and tune them. But then you add another variable of how is this affecting the reliability of the system,
right?
Which adds a whole nother level of like tinkering and learning you get to do for that stuff.
Yeah, it's fun. All right, let's take a quick break, and then we're going to talk about bolt guns because you guys are into that world now. Stag Arms, known for AR-15s, and especially they've got regular ones, and they have left-handed AR-15s, which I appreciate. But did you also know they have a lifetime transferable warranty? No matter what Stag rifle's in your hands, it holds their lifetime warranty. It's also 100% American-made. The rifles and components are made right here in the USA, and they have an infinite shot barrel guarantee. If you shoot out the barrel on one of the Stag rifles, they will replace it free of charge. That's standing behind your product. Go learn more over at stagarms.com.
Franklin Armory binary triggers just got an upgrade. The new AR Elite trigger. Of course, the binary firing system is a 3-position trigger. You can safe, you can fire it semi-auto, but in the 3rd position, it fires 1 round on pull and 1 round on release. Now, the new AR Elite trigger comes with premium features, including interchangeable trigger bows. So you can choose between a curved trigger or a straight flat face trigger. Also easy to install, straight, smooth trigger pull, 4.5 pounds plus or minus a half pound. Positive reset. So go check it out, franklinarmory.com.
Tune in to watch the new season of Guns and Gear on air now on Outdoor Channel and Sportsman Channel, or you can find it online. Guns and Gear brings viewers the newest innovations throughout the firearms industry. New guns, new gear, optics, ammo, all that stuff. Go check it out. Outdoor Channel, Sportsman Channel, and of course, online. Let's talk about Tokarev shotguns. Turkish-made, quality. We've been shooting them a little bit more lately, and we were out on the range with the Tokarev TAR 20. And this is kind of looks like an AR-15, but it's in 20 gauge, 3-inch chamber 20 gauge, detachable box magazine, 18.5-inch barrel. And the big deal is right on their website, $329. So pretty value price. So check them out, TokarevUSA.com. All right, Kirk, bolt guns. I mean, now I said you guys are the AR people, but now you're into the bolt world pretty heavy. Solus action. Where are we at with all the different varieties that you guys have now?
Yeah, so kind of starting from square one, we wanted to approach the bolt action space, right? And there's definitely a stigma when like a legacy AR company goes into that space. It's they're just gonna cram a square peg into a round hole, right? And make something work that's not optimal. So we really built it out to be a system. The action's definitely at the core of that. And again, going back to the builder, we wanted a custom action experience out of the box that was all open source. So you can go get your pre-fit barrels, you can get your triggers you want, you can get your chassis you want, and build the rifle that you want.
Yeah.
But with that, also offering a full feature assortment for barreled actions or complete rifles to kind of cater to every skill and like competency level. So right now where we're at with that is we have the Solus comp rifle. That's kind of the flagship of that line right now, I would say. And then we have the lightweight action, which is the same as the standard Solus short action, long action. It's just got a interrupted top rail and some of the fat trimmed out of it to pull some of the weight out. And then what you can expect to see out of that is more full featured like hunting rifles, Western hunting rifles that are really light and really purpose built.
So what about calibers?
Calibers. So yeah, short action is what we have right now. Long action's coming very soon. Your short action will cover you on everything from 5.56 up to 6.5 PRC. And then our long action will cover all your legacy, your Rem Mag, your Win Mags, that type of thing.
Sorry. What about, what have you been building on it?
Ooh, that's a fun question. It kind of depends. So most of what I've done on them personally is like chassis gun oriented stuff. I'm in the process of building a 338 Federal, which is a really weird one. Yeah, so I have my barrel blank. I need to send that off to my smith at some point. I've just been kind of procrastinating. So I have that coming, and then I kind of want to do some I'm mulling around with. And the 338 Federal is going to fit this mold pretty well, but it's a really odd ammo type that is very hard to find. Just a really ultralight, handy, like 18-inch 308.
Oh, really?
Just to pack around.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer of like most distances people are shooting at, they don't need all the barrel that they're getting, right? Yeah. Like you don't need a 26-inch barrel to get like peak ballistic efficiency for a 300-yard shot on a deer, right? So as long as the bullet's going fast enough to perform terminally, you know, at the distances I'm shooting at, I'll cut that thing down as short as I can. So,
well, and also people running cans. So
yes,
it's kind of, and I know you are, right?
Yeah.
So it's nice to have a shorter barrel because it gets kind of wonky. If you have even a 22, 24-inch barrel, you put a suppressor on it, and it doesn't feel balanced anymore.
Yeah, and if you're like hunting with the 308, I know people like the theoretical of, well, if I had to take a shot at 1,000, I can, and that opens up a whole door of like the efficacy of that and whatnot. And I'm like, realistically, if you're hunting with a 308, you're not doing that. Like, let's just clear that out there. So again, use case is key. You know, it's take a shot every time I say use case in this podcast. But use case is key. And then if you identify those distances that you'll be reaching out at, if the bullet performs terminally where you need it to, then you can go shorter on the barrel without consequence. I'm not saying cut it off as short as you can, because then there's definitely a fall off there where the bullet's not going to perform. And, you know, the shots you're taking on animals might not be ethical, but, you know, somewhere in the middle is the truth. And
what do you guys hear from, regular gun guys out there when they think about doing a bolt gun build? Because I mean, if you are not, again, a gun nerd, and I always use that term affectionately because I am one, but if you're just a regular gun guy, is there apprehension about doing a bolt gun build? Does that feel more, even though you and I know it's not that tricky? What are you hearing?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people just don't know how accessible it is now, right? Like back in the day, if you wanted to get into a custom rifle, you'd either have to buy a very expensive custom action or spend a bunch of money to have a gunsmith blueprint your 700 action and get everything, you know, cut to fit. But nowadays, we live in a world where, you know, we're able to, and us and other action manufacturers are able to hold tolerances tight enough in conjunction with barrel manufacturers that they're really easy to build at home. It's arguably easier than an AR-15. Yeah. You just need you need one specialty tool, which is going to be your action wrench. The rest you can do with a barrel vise and a normal tool set. So yeah, it's very easy to do. There's some, I would say, choice apprehension from people too. They're just not sure what to do. People generally gravitate towards the comp chassis guns because they look badass, right? But then, you know, some people go into it thinking like, oh, you know, maybe I need that. And then it turns into the whole cycle we were talking about earlier of they try something like, oh, maybe this gun's too heavy, or I wanted to hunt with this and this chassis gun's not perfect for that.
I wanted you to talk about that because you guys have your own chassis.
Yes. And
chassis are hot these days, but chassis versus stock, I mean, what are the considerations that people need to know?
Yeah. So it's going to come down to, again, what you're doing with the gun. Chassis guns generally are heavier. There are some folks out there doing very light, like hybrid chassis that I do think kind of walk both lines pretty well. But I'll just use ours as an example, right? It's very feature rich, has the full ARCA rail, has the bag rider, all the cheek adjustments, all the, you know, 45 QDs in it, all that fun stuff, right? But it's heavy. For a comp gun, you want it to be heavy. You want less, you want less recoil. You're not hiking with the thing 15 miles into the backcountry. So that's fine. As you get into the more, you know, especially like Western hunting, or if anybody outside of like stand hunting, you get away with a little bit of heavier gun, right?
Sure.
But if you're in the backcountry hiking around with that thing, you know, ounces equal pounds. I know people kind of preach that dogmatically, but there is some truth to it. And if I can get a little bit lighter rifle, I will, even if it is at the sacrifice of maybe I don't have an integral ARCA because I'm not using an ARCA accessory when I'm hunting. And there's luckily kind of accommodations for everybody on the market, everywhere in between. There's lots of good people doing good stuff that kind of, again, walk both lines well, go super hard into one, super hard into the other. It just kind of depends on the shooter's preference.
I will say, I guess it was last year, I did a backcountry hunt in Idaho, and it wasn't chassis gun, but I didn't worry about weight. It was, I had all the things on it. You know, I had the suppressor and I had a bipod and I had just everything. And I was like, who cares? I don't, you know, I work out. I'm fine. Whatever. Dude, by like day 3, I was going, God, I wish this gun was not so heavy. It was just
probably a little shorter too, right?
Cumbersome. Yes. Yes. It was just cumbersome. And I definitely changed my tune. I think we were 6 days out there and I was like, all right, fine. I will sell several guns to get the fancy lightweight gun or build a fancy lightweight gun.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, it's just something that some people just kind of need to learn. And I always encourage people trying things for themselves. To some, that's more of a financial burden because they like to try a lot of different things.
Right.
But, try different things, find out what works for you. Because, some people are just super buff and can hike around with a 35-pound rifle like it's nothing, and good for them. Rock on.
Maybe, but I think you can be buff, but after you're doing steep stuff and freaking deadfall every step of the way,
Yep.
I don't care if you work out 7 days a week, you're going to be like, I wish this rifle was not so big.
Yeah, things get heavy, and it's just finding that balance for you, what you're doing, what kind of animal you're pursuing, and weight and performance. That's kind of what it comes down to at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because you can get into a hybrid roll gun or a pretty light gun that still shoots pretty well, but it's going to have a lot less weight than a full featured chassis gun.
Right. Yeah. Now you guys are doing silencers,
Yes.
suppressors. Kind of updates on that. What do you guys got going lately?
The next thing that'll be coming out is going to be probably the Tefra 22. That's going to be our rimfire can. So it's rimfire rated up to 5.7. So that's going to be, that's awesome. It's kind of a given for a suppressor manufacturer. You got to do a good rimfire can. And that checks all the boxes. It's quiet. The baffle construction 17.4 stainless, so you can throw the baffles in an ultrasonic cleaner.
Pretty lightweight.
All that good stuff. For what it is, it is 17.4 baffles. We could have opted for like aluminum or a similar
it's not
material.
a titanium or something like that.
Yeah. So 74 is a good balance of, robustness, cost effectiveness, all around performance.
Yeah.
Because if you go cheap and go with a lighter material, you lose the ability to use ultrasonic cleaners and certain cleaning methods people like to do.
Right.
So 17.4 kind of just fits that bill for us.
Ruger, one of the popular ones, one of the kind of cool, fun ones they're doing is the Ruger LC Charger. It's chambered in 5.7 by 28, low recoiling cartridge, available in an array of options for target shooting, small game, personal defense. It's kind of a large format pistol, and you kind of have to see it to understand it, but it's a 10.3 inch barrel. So let that sink in for a second. Yes, it's a threaded barrel. Yes, they have a CNC milled handguard that works with M-LOK, full-length pick rail on top for optics. Just a fun, cool gun. The whole thing only weighs 66 ounces. So go check it out over at Ruger.com. SecuritGunStorage.com. We talk about Securit because they make just really cool products, and we have a bunch of them here. We have the lockers, we have some of their agile safes, and when people come into Gun Talk headquarters, we often get that question of like, ooh, what's these? They're all stacked up, and it's like a cool wall of storage for your guns and your gear, but they do a good job of providing a lot of different options for storing your goods, gun walls, accessories, and you can kind of customize the configuration inside to really maximize the space for what you want it to work for. So you can learn more over at SecuritGunStorage.com. Range Ready is where we run our classes, rangereadystudios.com. So go over there to check out the classes and events that we have going on. These things go fast. Another little known thing about Range Ready is we will provide you a pistol if you need one for running a class, or even an AR. But there's no charge for that. We don't rent you a gun and there's an upcharge. It's just available for your use. So it's a pretty cool deal. Go check it out, rangereadystudios.com. Hodgdon, they're the gunpowder people. And one of the ones that people really like is Hodgdon CFE BLK, CFE Black, optimized for 300 AAC blackout subsonic loads, but it's also ideal for the 17 Hornet, 7.62x39, 221 Fireball. So you have some options on things that you can load with this powder. One of the cool things about this, the CFE contains the copper fouling eraser ingredient, originally used in military propellant, which greatly deters copper fouling and contributes to longer periods of top accuracy with less barrel cleaning time. We like this. Go check them out over at Hodgdon.com. What else that we haven't covered that you guys are up to? It feels like there's been a lot lately. I mean, there was some stuff that was talked about at SHOT, and I don't know what's out or what's not out.
Yeah, so most recently, the M41 Pros, those are launched. That's our ambi rifle. So we have those out to market. Those come with our Mod 4 handguard.
And is that a complete rifle?
We have them as complete rifles for sale and then components individually.
Okay,
so
okay.
It's got that ambi lower everyone loves, super intuitive. Not reinventing the wheel too much there. I don't want to make anything proprietary. outside of that. And then on the handguard, we have our new Mod 4 handguard, which is super robust. Doesn't require timing, minimal deflection for folks that are running IR aiming devices, that kind of thing. With that, that's going to translate over. People can kind of expect, I'll tease this here, we're going to do an M5 version.
Ooh,
So
right.
that's on the docket as well and being prototyped out now as we speak, actually.
Awesome.
Suppressor side, we have the Mantle QD that everyone keeps asking us for. We're just taking the time to make sure we do it right. So that's still coming.
Yeah.
The same thing with the folding hinge for the Solus chassis.
Okay.
So those are kind of reaching a point here soon, though. So I'm hopeful that we'll get those to market soon for all the people that have been anticipating it.
Probably a lot of the stuff that people are asking for, you're probably working on it, right?
Oh yeah. And they think we're like, the marketing team will post something as, "Oh, wish you were working on this instead." I'm like, the marketing people aren't the ones. They
actually don't let us do that.
Yeah, you can point that at me if you want, but keep them out of it. We just want to make sure we do things correctly, right? We want to make sure the customer has a good product they're happy with, even if that does mean pushing a launch out.
Yeah.
It's always the dilemma with SHOT Show, right? How much do we say? Because then when we tell people about it, they're expecting it, but
right.
And that kind of puts a little bit of a fire under our ass to get it to market. But again, we want to make sure we're doing everything correctly.
What about your monthly like special custom builds?
Builder sets.
Builder sets.
Oh yeah, those are still going strong.
Rocking those.
Still rocking those. We just had one. We did not just have one drop. We have one dropping this Friday.
Okay.
So that'll be for the folks listening. It's going to be the first Friday of every month. We usually drop those.
Okay.
Something a little different. This one's a little tiger stripey action going on. It looks pretty
awesome.
good. So
that's what got to be. If you're doing builds, you're looking for something new, or if you haven't done builds and you go, I don't know, I just want something different. It's like turnkey, right?
Yeah.
I mean, these are custom painted, Cerakoted?
Cerakoted, yeah.
Right? Uppers, lowers, the whole thing together.
Yeah.
I mean, what's included in a typical builder set?
So you'll have your upper, lower handguard. So those will be all the primary components that usually get Cerakoted. Some of the sets we'll do matching furniture on if somebody wants that. And then we do them every month. So there's kind of a constant refresh. You can kind of wait for something you like, and the configurations we offer those in generally don't change. So
do you guys ever take like customer suggestions and actually do them? Has that ever happened? Like, oh, that's a really good idea.
Yeah, it'll like push our hands sometimes. Usually it's the camouflage crowd. Those, I'm a kind of a camo nerd myself, so I get it. But you'll get like people be asking for one camouflage pattern for 6 months. Then we're like, okay, because it takes a while to orchestrate all this thing. We can't just like determine the month of, right? We have to send parts out, get them coded, all that stuff.
Well, I feel like you guys are in the Pacific Northwest. I think a flannel would be. That'd be the bomb.
No comment.
Yes.
No comment.
Yes. Flannel coming.
Yeah. So, and it's fun to kind of try to cater to different tastes too, because some people like camouflage, some people just want something fun. So it's kind of finding that balance throughout the year of that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And, generally we kind of keep it mixed up. The only exceptions are the 4th. We'll do something unique each year. But there's kind of a definite theme there with the July builder sets. We'll usually do a few. There's always one that's red, white, and blue. Of
course.
And then whatever else the coders give us. Because we actually work with a bunch of different like boutique shop coders.
Oh, you kind of put it out to them like what would be cool? Give us suggestions?
And they submit them to us, and then we select the ones we like, and that we work with that coder through and through.
Awesome.
To get those to market. So we got a lot of really talented folks helping us with that, which is awesome to see.
And they're limited run?
Limited run.
Is there a fixed number, or is it just till they're you get to the end of the
till they're gone? We don't want to keep it too scarce. We want people to be able to build the things they want. Nothing's more frustrating than logging on a launch day and seeing the thing you wanted was out of stock. So we try to mitigate that as much as possible, but sometimes it happens.
Okay, cool, very cool. Kirk, thanks for being on with us, man.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me.
I mean, so if you're thinking about doing a build, if you want your next build, go check them out. Aero Precision. I mean, maybe it's time if you've done 5 or 6 or 8 AR builds.
Do a bolt gun build. It's very easy.
Bolt gun build.
Very easy.
Yeah, we were doing one today, and it was stupid easy.
Yeah, just as long as you buy and spec parts, it's the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah.
So
awesome. All right, well that's it for us. We'll see you guys next time on Gun Talk Nation.